Hi, and welcome to Social Work 664, Treating Trauma. My name is Caroline Campbell, and I'll be your instructor for this course. I'm excited to be your guide on this journey, and as I mentioned in my introduction, I really see trauma as almost like an onion. As you peel back layer after layer, you gain a different awareness and understanding about trauma that dramatically impacts and changes the way your social work practices, how you view your personal life, your relationships, and your ability to help and support and heal people who are impacted by trauma. So this video is to walk you through the course and give you a little bit of an overview of the next 7 weeks. As you can see here, we have our homepage. Over here is contact information for me. You can click on my name above. We have our calendar and we have our announcements. On the left-hand side is our table of contents, so it's similar to other courses in that way. And we have really our summary of the course, which this course really begins with looking at the etiology and treatment of trauma symptoms. We really start with kind of the origin of trauma, the neurobiology of trauma, get a solid understanding and foundation in that, and see how it's connected to all aspects of mental health and well-being. We really try to take a strengths and resilience approach to the study of trauma and keep in the forefront of our minds that healing is possible. We know this based on science. We know this through MRIs and PET scans that the brain is constantly changing and being changed, and healing is possible. And we really also like to keep self-care in the forefront. So in the classroom, you'll be asked to start with a sense of safety and keeping the learning climate safe, as well as identify what your own self-care is throughout. So you'll see videos, readings, different resources. I try to post a lot on self-care because this is sort of par for the course when we think about trauma. It's like the flip side of trauma is that we really need to think very seriously and intentionally about our self-care, perhaps more so with this topic than any other. So much of the readings focus on the psychobiology of trauma, and throughout the course you will have 3 different journal assignments where you're asked to critically reflect and think about the materials you're reading. So to that end, within these journals, what's going to be really important is that you apply what you're reading, what the class discussions are like. Really try to synthesize everything, roll it all in together in that journal. So to really try to apply much of what you're learning. We'll have weekly discussion boards, and those discussion responses usually focus on a case study, either with our reading or one of our shared case examples that we've used in other courses in the MSW program. And we ask you to think about how trauma and the principles of trauma that you're learning apply to each of these different case studies or these stories that we're reading, primarily in Bruce Perry's book, The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog. And so you'll do initial postings on that, responding to question prompts, and then also responding and interacting with your peers. And that's typically, we have our initial post due on Thursday night and then the follow-up post due on Sunday night. Throughout the course, we also want you to get a sense of an expertise about an aspect of trauma, a type of trauma that occurs, and really try to get a sense of what the literature and research is saying about that type of trauma. We'll ask you to narrow that lens even more about a population that experiences that type of trauma. So for example, if you were focusing on natural disasters, you may focus on how children are impacted by natural disasters, and maybe even narrow the lens more about experiences of children in Hurricane Katrina. And you'll follow this topic along with a partner and perhaps a triad who will center on the same type of trauma but a different type of population. And you'll continue to focus on it throughout. And at the end of the course, you will be thinking through types of therapies, and you'll do a literature review and a final PowerPoint presentation as a group where you present different therapies that are useful and relevant and evidence-based for that type of trauma. So let's turn our attention to the course schedule. You'll see the outline of the next 7 weeks. And what you can see is that we really begin the first week thinking of the topic of trauma, getting a sense of it, a foundation in it, and understanding some of the neurobiology behind trauma responses. What we know about trauma is that it is a sensory issue rather than a cognitive issue. And we'll explain more about that as we go through some of the psychobiology of trauma. So week 1 is really this overview, and you'll see each week you will be reading in 3 different books. It'll be in Bruce Perry's The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, which is a wonderful, easy read. It's filled with stories about children who have been impacted by trauma of different types, and it's really something that is very hard to put down, but is a great way to understand trauma and how it looks in lots of different aspects. Our second book is Babette Rothschild, The Body Remembers, the Psychophysiology of Trauma and Trauma Treatment. Also an essential read, and we will be reading in that each week. And then we have Bessel van der Kolk, which is someone who has really just been sort of one of the fathers of trauma and trauma work. And his book is The Body Keeps the Score. And this is really focuses on a lot of the amazing somatic approaches that have come about, as well as the history of trauma work. And so you'll be reading in each of these 3 books every single week. And then you will also have other articles, media, videos, and different resources, sometimes websites to explore. And we ask that you do all this reading and then move to your discussion forum. You will have a discussion forum prompt. You'll be asked to respond to that by Thursday, as I mentioned before, and then a peer response, sometimes 2 peer responses by Sunday. And in the initial week, we ask you to sign up for some of the assignments that go throughout the course. So we have a technique demonstration, and that is where you are going to demonstrate a alternative type of technique or therapy that can calm the nervous system and calm the body's response to trauma symptomology. And so you'll be asked to sign up for some of these things in the first week, as well as do an introduction of yourself. As we continue in the weeks, what you'll see is that we have readings in each of those 3 books. We have different media, different content, and then you begin with some of your articles for the literature review. By week 3, your literature review is due, and this is focusing on the types of trauma and populations. This is something you will be deciding with your partner, but you will hand it in separately. And then week 4, we start to get into actual trauma treatment and the different stages of trauma treatment that we're following. And this is really focusing on stage 1, which is creating safety, stage 2, which is mourning and remembrance, and stage 3, reintegration, reconnection. As we move into week 5, we continue with some of the stages of healing. And in this, you're going to continue to focus on the discussion forums. You'll have one of your journals that is due actually in week 6. And you will also be focusing on the trauma type and therapies presentation, which is done as a group presentation. By week 7, we're thinking about special populations, some recent trends in trauma treatment, and also interventions. So this is an overview of the 7 weeks, and you can find that under Welcome to Treating Trauma, the course overview of the schedule. So there are a variety of different supports and resources throughout the course. One area that I suggest everyone go to is Ask the Instructor. This is really for questions that you believe might be group related or pertain to the entire class and that you would like to ask on that forum. I definitely try to respond to that, but of course, if there's something that is needed within 24 hours, you should definitely email me. You can feel free to call me, and my contact information is listed on the site. And definitely to post on the course wall. What you'll see is on the course wall there is an option for posting. These are different areas for resources that you might have. I post a lot of resources. I also post events that are happening, whether it's in social media or physically, if people are able to come to events that are across Philadelphia and the tri-state area, and just as added resources for trauma information. So these resources are below around communications and community. My top 10 tips for this course, and let me just say 2, is one is that take your self-care pretty seriously in this course. We go beyond the concept of self-care as a spa day or chocolates, and really try to think about almost a very holistic sense of self-care. So I'll be talking about what is it like to look at vitality in each of the areas of your life. So you'll see at the end of each segment that there is some types of visualization or breathing exercise or mindfulness. But I'll work to sort of push you beyond your comfort zone in self-care and try to get a sense of what your plan is as far as social self-care for social work too. And the second thing is the more that you are able to wrap in all of the resources that we give you, all of the content material, all of the aspects of this curriculum, and really do lots of cross-cutting application, synthesis, and integration of your ideas, while really critically reflecting, looking at each discussion board response as almost a mini essay. This is really the way to get the most out of the course and succeed in the course as well. I love to talk to students, both through Zoom, also over the phone, so please reach out for anything needed. First thing to do in the course is make sure you have your books and begin the readings, and then we will jump right in. I hope you have a wonderful first week, and I will see you at the end of week 1. I look forward to all of your introductions.